Dear President, dear member of the jury, dear Vice President Ferrainen, dear all. Today we honor Daphne Caruana Galizia, a woman who paid with her life, her strong belief in the freedom to inform. Daphne sacrificed not a distant memory. It is a living warning, because press freedom is never won forever. It is a daily battlefield, and we live in a time when the freedom of information is under attack from many, many sides. The intimidation of journalists, as we have seen recently in Italy with the grave case against Sigfrido Ranucci, whose car exploded due to a bomb. It is a worrying sign of a deeper crisis that crosses our democracies. A crisis that involves also new instruments. We know that today propaganda no longer needs thanks to threatened freedom. It only needs algorithms. Disinformation campaigns, fake news, digital manipulation, they do not only confuse citizens, they try to destroy trust in truth itself. This is how democracy is weakened, not with the noise of violence, but with the silence of indifference. To defend those who inform and investigate, it's to defend ourselves. It means defending every European citizen's right to know, to understand, and eventually to choose. It means defending truth as a public good. And if we look at works of the participants to the prize, we can see a real and update map of the crisis of our time, a collective story that speaks to us and call on us as European institutions to give answers that are concrete, brave, and worthy of human dignity that those stories defend. That is why this prize is not only a journalistic award. It is a moral and a political act. This is the commitment of this House, and for this I would like now give the floor to our President, Roberta Metsola. So thank you. Thank you to all very much.
Thank you very much, dear Vice President, dear Pina, dear First Vice President Sabine Verheyen, Miriam Lexman, colleagues, Fabienne Keller, members of the Bureau, members of Parliament, good evening. This is an important moment in the European Parliament's calendar, where we celebrate the people behind the story and the remarkable work that they do every day. It is an award for investigative journalism named after the formidable force of nature that was Daphne Caruana Galizia, assassinated in Malta 8 years ago. It is hard to believe that it has been that long and that her family and us all are still waiting for justice to be served. So today is also a reminder of our responsibility to keep pushing for a semblance of justice for her. This year has been an especially difficult one for journalists, whether all those killed in war zones or those targeted and denigrated by those they are reporting on. Just last week, and Pina mentioned it, we saw it again with a car bomb attack against Italian journalist Sigfrido Ranucci on the anniversary, 16th October, of the one that took Daphne's life. Bravery should not have to be the part of the job description for a journalist, and yet too often it is. That's what Daphne personified: courage under unbelievable pressure, bravery in the face of onslaughts, lawsuits, attacks, threats to her. Daphne wrote when they burnt down her front door. She wrote when they killed her beloved dog. She wrote when they targeted her children, when they sacked her son in revenge. She wrote when mobs chased her down the street. She wrote when those she exposed froze her bank accounts. She wrote when she was the only one writing. She wrote even when she was scared, when she was vulnerable, when she knew what she was up against. Daphne was not only an investigative journalist, she was also funny, genuinely laugh-out-loud funny. She was tough. She loved life. She was witty. She poked fun at politicians taking themselves too seriously. None of us were spared. She gardened and she loved food. Her children were everything to her. And she was a woman who dared to demand better from those elected to represent her. Now, they thought that the car bomb would make her forgettable. Instead, it made her invincible. And almost a decade later, the corrupt and the crooked still fear her enough to clear away a makeshift memorial dedicated to her every single night. Every single night. That was her impact. And that is her impact still. Now, to all of this year's finalists, congratulations. You remind us that journalism is not just a job, it is a public service, a pillar of our democracy, and that is why your work matters so much. And it is why the European Parliament will always be an ally in defending free speech, in protecting those who report it and acting when it is under threat. We have shown this through the European Media Freedom Act and through anti-SLAPP laws that stop abusive court cases, designed especially to silence journalists. Now, as we move into 2026, it is time for member states to bring these rules into their national legislation and to go even further, to make sure that every journalist is protected. I also want to take the opportunity to thank the jury of the award. I know how much work it involves, and I hope we can make the process as easy as possible. I also want to thank a few people in particular. First and most importantly, my colleague, David Casa. You know, he first brought this prize to life. And this would not be possible if it was not for him. He has done so much until today, against all kinds of pressure, to fight for justice and her legacy. I'd like to thank Pina, who took up the baton as Vice President responsible for this prize. It was not an easy job, but you work so hard to protect journalists across Europe, even when you are facing big challenges. I would like to thank all the people in our services and our Communication Directorate General who made today possible, not only in the room dedicated to Daphne, but also to make sure that everybody who ever enters this room remembers her. I'd like to thank Daphne's family, to her 3 boys, Matthew, Andrew and Paul in particular. She would be so, so proud of the men you have all become. I also want to remember her mother, Rose Vella, who passed away before seeing justice for her daughter. So let me finish simply by saying thank you. Thank you to all of you for being here, for standing up when it would be easier to stay silent, for democracy, for Europe, and for the people who count on both.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, President Metsola. And now to present the prize, I invite Julian Hischler to come to the stage, please. She is a member of the jury and also the president of the Berlin Press Club. Julian, the floor is yours.
Dear President Metsola, dear Vice President Picierno, dear fellow colleagues and friends, good evening everybody here in this room. So here we are again, gathered together for the 5th time to present this prestigious journalism award. But before we do so, I would like to share another thought on Daphne Caruana Galizia. Not long ago, a lovely colleague of mine asked me whether I would know that she actually had studied archaeology. Sure, I did. Living in Malta, it isn't all unusual to be interested in old stuff. Practically, the entire island is one giant historical excavation site. But then he asked, did you know why she never worked as an archaeologist and instead became an investigative journalist? And I had to admit, no, I don't have any idea. So I started to think about what the job of an archaeologist actually is. They study vast amounts of information. They observe landscapes, and with a sharp instinct, they identify the right spot. And then they take out their shovels and they start to dig until they bring something to light. The objects they uncover are cleaned, analyzed, and catalogued before helping us to understand the world just a little better. The objects they uncover are cleared, analyzed, and they rarely discover golden hoards, more often traces of slaughter, evidence of violence, disaster, and crime. They find leftovers that rarely speaks of a glorious past, but rather of power struggles, betrayal, intrigue, corruption, and oppression. From that perspective, I think Daphne did exactly what she had learned. She sifted through data, followed her instincts, and dug in the right places to bring shameful truth into the light. Because that's what investigative journalists do. They keep digging, digging, digging until they make discoveries that help us to understand what's really going on. And that's exactly what every journalist did whose work was submitted this year for the Daphne Caruana Galizia Journalism Prize. They all took out their shovels and started digging. They gathered information, analyzed it, and assembled fragments into a picture we can understand. And the stories they tell are just as uncomfortable as many of those uncovered by archaeologists. This year, once again, the 28-member jury worked through reports on crime, fraud, environmental sins, and human rights violations. 34 of the excellent submissions in one way or another focused on Russia and Ukraine. 18 works are related to current affairs regarding immigration. And there are also several reports on the phenomenon of the far right and Nazi groups in Europe, as well as the Israel-Palestine conflict. That's hardly surprising. Investigative journalism reflects the state of the world in its rawest form. And again, these are not pleasant stories, but often deeply tragic ones. Although reviewing these works is never emotionally easy, on behalf of the jury, I want to sincerely thank all our colleagues around the world who take risks and pursue their works with passion and commitment to expose wrongdoing and demand accountability. This year, we received 316 submissions in total. From those, a shortlist of 88 was drawn up. Don't ask me why we ended up with 88. And from that, 10 outstanding pieces were finally selected. And as in previous years, the final decision was a tough one. And yet, in the end, one investigation stood out. Here, a team of archaeologists had extraordinary intuition. They captured the spirit of our time, exposed greed, uncovered violations of European regulations, revealed sanction evasion, identified environmental risks, and called out Russia's ruthless tactics. And ultimately, they made it clear the European Union still has a lot of work to do. And with that, I would like to conclude. I will keep the shovel because now it goes to the digger of the year. who will be revealed just in a moment by my dear colleague David Abiago, also member of the jury and president of the International Press Association, AP. Thank you.
Okay. Dear President, dear Vice Presidents, honoured members, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honour to announce the winner of the 2025 Daphne Caruana Galizia Prize for Journalism. This year's award recognises groundbreaking cross-border investigation, an extraordinary collaboration involving 40 journalists from across Europe, many of whom are with us today. Their work embodies the spirit of Daphne's legacy. We've heard that. Fearless, meticulous, unflinching in the face of power. Just to think back, we mentioned some of the problems she's faced. If I understand correctly, she faced 40 libel cases, or 41. And unfortunately, one of those is still ongoing for her inheritors, her sons. The investigation reveals how hundreds of ageing oil tankers, many barely seaworthy, are being used to bypass international sanctions on Russian oil. These vessels, sold by global shipping companies, including respectable European firms, have become instruments of evasion, enabling the Kremlin to circumvent EU embargoes. The consequences are not theoretical, are not only theoretical. It's not just a point of law. Is it Article 3M of Regulation 2014/833? These are things I write about, the changes. One such vessel leaked oil along the Baltic coast of northern Germany, turning hidden risk into environmental damage. But the danger goes far beyond pollution. This shadow fleet poses a constant threat to the health of the Baltic Sea, and worse, it helps finance Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine and undermines our security. At the helm of this investigation is Beerte Schoolhuis from Follow the Money in the Netherlands. It's happening. Beerte, congratulations on your leadership. I was a bit too quick in announcing your name, but congratulations on your tenacity, on your vision. So, Beerte, you and your colleagues have shown us what collaborative journalism can achieve when borders are no barrier to our work. So now I'd like to invite to the stage the journalists from the participating media outlets. There's NRK from Norway, OCCRP, De Tijd from Belgium, The Times from the UK, NDR, WDR, Süddeutsche Zeitung from Germany, Danwatch, here they are. There's EP Media from Italy. It's a long list, sorry. Solomon and Inside Story from Greece. And all the 40 journalists in total, I believe, who contributed to this remarkable prize. So this prize is for all of you, for your courage, your collaboration, your unwavering commitment to truth. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you very, very much. I think I speak for the whole team when I say that I'm deeply honored, especially because this prize explicitly recognizes journalism's vital contribution to defending the European Union's values like freedom, democracy, and therefore it emphasizes the importance of free press. And I'm standing here as a representative for a team of about 40 journalists from all over Europe and even beyond. Some of them are here with me, which makes me even prouder, because, well, it might sound as a cliche, but in this case it is really true. This was a genuine team effort. Without the hard work of all these journalists, we couldn't have uncovered and published what we did. And that also goes for the team behind the scenes. Editors who helped us get the stories out there, editors-in-chief who supported us, developers, creative professionals who made terrific illustrations, videos, and also people like our coordinator, Tom, who is somewhere here, who worked tirelessly to manage all of these journalists. And as you probably know, journalists are not the easiest creatures to manage. And that's why I'm extremely proud that this teamwork is being recognized today. And as we all know, well, it has been addressed today a couple of times already, independent journalism, especially investigative journalism, is under threat worldwide. Recently, the free press in Gaza is under attack. Many of the journalists paid for the work with their lives. We learned today that from Reporters Without Borders that at least 210 Palestinian journalists have been killed simply because they did their work. They sought to uncover the truth. And these threats also exist in Europe. Think about journalists in Ukraine or Russia or from these countries who are trying to report on what is happening in their countries. They're trying to investigate crimes, to uncover which Western countries or companies may be involved. And without these investigative journalists in all of these places, the truth remains hidden and the power can't be held to account. I think it's clear that democracy needs these journalists. The European Parliament needs them, even if they may sometimes seem like a nuisance. That's our job, asking the inconvenient questions. But also we at Follow the Money need them. We are very fortunate to live and work in a relatively safe country. But only by collaborating with journalists from other countries are we able to produce investigations like the one being honored today, the Shadow Fleet Secrets. And when we dreamt about, well, what if we were going to win? What would we do? Because, well, as real journalists, we checked what the prize is, so we know that there's some prize money involved. And the team behind the Shadow Fleet Secrets has decided to donate that prize money to 2 investigative organizations that are working under extreme circumstances. That's Slidstvo.info from Ukraine and the Russian outlet iStories. And this is not just an act of mere kindness or altruism. We know that independent investigative journalism is expensive, also for us. But we strongly believe that outlets like these are urgently needed in times like these. And we couldn't do our work without them. And we hope to continue engaging in this kind of cross-border collaborations and investigations in the future, because what we want to do and keep going to do is holding those in power to account. Once again, thank you very, very much.